All right, here we go. Thanks, guys, for your patience.
All right,
There
it
we go.
worked.
All right.
I had to go get a different device. My phone doesn't. My phone just decided that it's done.
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah. Having a good device is good. Both you and I are sitting in a looks like a breezy backyard. There we go.
Yep.
All right. Well, good deal. Sorry, guys. I watched this little technical issue, but no big deal. So, like I said, this is only my second time doing this, and Stevie said this is only your second time on Instagram Live, right?
Yeah, it's a different way, and we're non-interventionist, kind of low-tech Luddite winemakers and farmers, and so this new regime of doing everything via video is
Oh,
like new territory for us.
me too. I'm used to talking to people face to face and pouring wine in their
Old school.
glass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool, man. Well, good to have you on. Thank you so much for your time. So I'm just gonna kind of, as I'm seeing people joining, I'm just gonna kind of give everybody just a quick little rundown on what we're gonna do, so everybody knows what to expect.
Perfect.
Um, so obviously we're Wine Theory, and we represent 10 small production California winemakers, which is really our passion, and Matthiasson is one of them. So we're kind of starting this new deal of having our winemakers on and sharing a bottle or two bottles of the same exact wine together, and encouraging folks to go out and get them in advance and taste along with us, or buy them afterwards, whatever works best for them. So as some of you guys know, in Tennessee, Jill and Steve were going to come in late March for a Blackberry Farm event, and then also an event here in Chattanooga, which unfortunately was canceled. So we had some really exciting wines brought in for the event in Chattanooga, and we can't let those go to waste. So we're going to share two of those with you tonight. We're going to pull corks on the Ribolla Gialla and the Cab Franc, but we're going to talk through six wines, the six wines that we would have done in that tasting back at the end of March. So we're probably going to go a little bit out of tasting order. So if that's okay with you, Steve, I think it's good just to pop the first wine and get some wine in people's glasses and start talking. So anything you want to say before we get into some of the wines?
I don't think so. I mean, I can hear that. I can hear birds in my backyard, and I think I'm hearing birds in your backyard.
Yeah.
It's great, great with all this craziness and hiding and being scared of nature and our bodies and everything. It's nice to also remember that Mother Nature still is mother, and so so we got to celebrate the birds in the spring and all this good stuff.
I agree. Get out on the trails quite a bit, and you see the deer and the turkey, and they don't seem to have a clue. They're probably like, there's a whole lot less people out in the woods, which is real
Yeah,
nice for
exactly.
them.
Yeah.
So guys, like I say, six of the wines we're going to taste tonight. A lot of these are really kind of micro production wines, and Steve's going to kind of talk through the wines and a little bit about the vineyard sites and that kind of stuff. If you looked at our Instagram post, we are running a nice little special and an opportunity to buy through two of our retail partners, Riverside Wine and Spirits, and Imbibe here in town. So check that out when you get a chance. Like I say, all the details in the Instagram post. It's super easy. So let's taste some wine, Steve. What do you say?
All right. Perfect. Sounds good.
All right. So we're
Ribolla,
starting off with 17 Ribolla Gialla, right?
Ribolla Gialla, 17. Yep.
Nice.
Um, so the Ribolla Gialla. This is a wine. A lot. I mean, we've been making Ribolla Gialla since 2005. I first encountered the variety back in 2002. I've gotten so many questions over the years of why in earth would a Napa Valley winery be making Ribolla Gialla? Like, where did you get it? What's the whole deal with it? Hardly anyone's even heard of it, and it's esoteric even in Italy. Most Italians have never heard of it. And
Right.
so why do we even have it? And it's really if you look at the label, it's a little bit like a blueprint, and the reason for that is that this variety represents so much about the new wave of California, the new California, and the idea of getting into like exploring different varieties and all of the possibilities beyond Cabernet, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, etc. And so it's just like it was this very interesting twist of this history with Ribolla Gialla. so I used to manage vineyards for other people. I still do vineyard consulting, and that was sort of like vineyards was my original job and before winemaking. And so one of my clients, George Vare, was retired out of the wine industry, and he had like run massive wineries. He started Gloria Ferrer. He ran Geyser Peak in the 70s. He ran Behringer. He ran the Henry Wine Group. So this guy, he was a heavy hitter at a big level, and a lot of those guys at that level in wine, unfortunately, are not big wine fans. You know, they're business people, right? And
Right.
so George, he just believed to his dying day that wine is something that you should love, and the people of wine is the best part of wine. And he never went down that cynical route. And so when he used to travel to Italy to recharge his batteries working in the wine business, and he would go to Friuli, and he got to know all these producers in Friuli. Well, Friuli is north of Venice, way up there next to the Slovenia at the top of the Adriatic, way up there. And it's a very interesting region, very idiosyncratic and very proud, because they've been conquered both ways, from the east and from the west, so many times that they're just fierce about their local independence and identity, right? And so he would go there, and the winemakers there they're so interesting and they're so committed. And so for his retirement, he said, I'm going to grow Ribolla Gialla, you know, at my vineyard in Napa Valley. And I was managing the vineyard for him. He comes back and he brings these cuttings back, 3 cuttings, 4 buds each. So we had 12 buds on these, you know, sticks, and said, we're going to grow Ribolla Gialla. What's Ribolla Gialla? I'd never heard of it, know anything about it. And he's saying, this is the antidote to Cabernet. This represents freedom, thinking for yourself, everything. That's why we're going to grow it. And
I love it.
I was like, sounds good to me. Let's do this. And so we grafted 12 buds. We got 12 vines. And the next year we had enough off of them to graft a few rows. And the next year we had a nice little block in the vineyard. It's amazing how you can expand. And he got the buds from Grosvenor, who is really one of the people that really went back to the orange wine, fermenting in amphora and all that. Grosvenor is a winemaker in Friuli that wanted to go back to his roots. And he actually had lost his son in a motorcycle accident, and decided he was going to change everything, and he wasn't going to keep making oaky wine for critics anymore. He was going to do something that meant something to him. And so he's an example of what Ribolla means. And so he went back to amphora buried in the ground. So we got the cuttings from him. And so then we have our first crop, and George ferments it. And I walk into the garage where he's making his wine, and this is where we made our wine too. We started Matthiasson in his garage, 2003.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And we walk in there and we say, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? I thought this was a white wine, because they're doing a punch down on the Ribolla Gialla. And he says, no, that's how you do it. The term orange wine wasn't coined yet, but he says, this is the way they've been doing it for 1,000 years. That's why it's so good with food, because that's why it has that tannic grip, because you make it's a red wine with no color, basically. And so it fits in this world between white and red. It has all that body and structure of a red wine, but it has white wine flavors. So you can have it like pork chop and applesauce is like classic, you know, heavy pasta with butter and poppy seeds is something they would pair it with in Friuli. You know, any kind of salamis, alpine cheeses, washed rind cheeses. They do a lot of raw fish in Friuli. It's kind of like sashimi, but they put olive oil on it. They call it crudo, and Ribolla is great with that. You can stand up to like real fatty tuna belly. So that's Ribolla. And so when we bought our property in 2006, the very first thing we planted here was the Ribolla Gialla, because we decided to do it whole cluster from here, no yeast, no nothing, and we thought it was the purest way we could express the terroir of our new vineyard was through that ancient variety that's done everything right there. You put it all in skin, stems, everything. Yeah.
It's a great wine, and I can't get enough skin contact orange wines. Like, that's just some of my favorite wines to drink all year round. They're incredible. So so this one's 17 Ribolla Gialla. This is from the Matthiasson vineyard, right? This is at your house, correct? Not the new, not the new property, right?
Yeah. So I'll show you. This is at our house. So let's see if I can make this camera to work. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So you see that barn back there?
Yep.
It's right on the back side of that barn, is where the Ribolla is.
Nice. Nice.
So that's, you know, it's, yeah, this is our property. I can give you a quick little walk around. There's the vegetable garden over there. Thank God for the vegetable garden right now, since we're not going really out shopping. There's an old hay rake. It's actually from this property. It used to be a hay field.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is a little bit bright. I apologize, but this is Rufosco. So this is another variety. And then if you look over a few rows, you might be able to tell on this camera that these first 2 rows have bright green leaves, and then the next 3 rows don't, because they haven't budded out as much. That's the Franc we're going to try later, up against the ditch. We replanted that ditch to all these native plants for wildlife habitat. So, and then this is under the vine cultivation. You know, we're organic, so we don't use any herbicides. So we run our cultivator; it goes in and out under the vines. And then these are grasses that are planted. The California native grasses. The roots go down 6 to 8 feet on those grasses, if you can believe it. They go dormant in the summer, turn yellow, and
Yeah.
but they sequester carbon, and they use the spring water for really makes a big difference for wine quality.
Yeah, I bet.
So,
I bet.
Yeah, if you guys
Awesome.
watched the Psalm movie and saw our house that fell down in the earthquake, it's all rebuilt now.
Yeah, yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, so kind of just putting the finishing touches on this Ribolla Gialla before we move on. Kind of what's the time on the skins and kind of the wood regimen on the wine.
All the good geeky stuff is it's.
Yeah, we won't go too deep into it, but since this is one we're tasting, we'll go a little deeper.
Well, one thing is it's 11% alcohol.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. It's, you know, so the texture. So there's 2 weeks on the skins, and the skins give you this texture that replaces the alcohol, that allows you to have that nice full wine. But with that alcohol, you can just drink it. Our goal with all of our wines is that when you're eating dinner, you don't have to count your glasses, and hopefully you're not hanging on to the side of your table halfway through trying to get through your meal. You know,
right,
you're just enjoying drinking without thinking about the alcohol aspect of it. You're just enjoy. You know, the alcohol is there; it's part of it, but I don't want to be worried about it. I want to just enjoy my meal and just drink, and because it tastes good. And so the skins really give you that. It's basically 2 weeks, whole cluster, skins, stems, everything goes in there. And it's done with punch downs, and then we press it when it's fully dry, and then it goes into neutral oak barrels, the oldest barrels that we have. We like it in oak because we like the oxygen, but initially when we press it, it's very tannic. With wines, the color, the anthocyanins actually combine with the tannins, and that's what gives the silkiness in a red wine. With white wine, you don't have the anthocyanins, so it doesn't naturally become silky. It requires oxygen, and that's why it turns orange, because you cannot use sulfites in an orange wine. If you use sulfites, the tannins are incredibly prickly, and they never become smooth. So we need the oxygen, and then the oxygen is what softens the tannin. So it's like an accelerated aging, basically, in the barrel.
Right.
So we leave it in the barrel till we think it tastes good, and then we bottle it. And you know, because it hits a point where it starts moving pretty fast because there's no sulfites in it. So it might be 12 months, 14 months, might be 20 months. It just totally depends on the vintage when to bottle it, because you're tasting it and waiting for it to hit, for the tannins to smooth out and become, like, you know, soft and full, and then we get in the bottle real quick before it goes south on us.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, it's a great wine. This has definitely been a Matthiasson wine favorite of ours for sure. It's really enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one that we open a lot too, because there's so many foods. We're like, I don't know if we want to go a red wine. I don't know, white wine, and so we end up going with it right down the middle with the Ribolla or someone else's skin contact white.
Yep, perfect. All right, well, hopefully folks got some Ribolla out open and then keep drinking it. Let's just move on to quickly kind of talking about the next wine, which is the new vintage of 2019 Rosé. Okay. I know this is an absolute staple wine for you guys.
Yep, it's a staple for us, and this is something, like I showed you that garden. We eat out of the garden every single night, and so we want wines that really go with fresh vegetables. And rosé is just perfect with fresh vegetables, especially in the springtime. This is another one. It's 11.5% alcohol. That's really important to us because, again, we want to chug rosé.
Right.
It's one wine that you don't necessarily want a long finish and a lot of complexity on. You're looking, for me, a rosé should be nice and clean, just like a perfectly balanced lager beer, basically, where it's just finishes clean and just leaves you feeling refreshed. So we pick it really, really early, and the way we can get away with that is the vineyard is about an hour inland. It's way hotter than it is here in Napa. Here in Napa, where we get the fog out of the ocean, out there it's inland, it's really hot. Mostly what they grow out there are tomatoes and like stuff that like heat, a lot of almonds and walnuts and stuff. And so what that does is the acid falls out of it midsummer and allows us to pick the grapes before the flavors get ripe. The flavors are still kind of like a crunchy, hard nectarine, if you can imagine that, or like
right.
a strawberry. But the acids have dropped out, so they're in balance, and the sugars still haven't come up. And and then we pick at night. If we start picking this in July, if you can believe that.
Oh wow!
And then,
yeah,
and then it's a whole cluster press. We press it just like you would press champagne. So we're just a really fast press because we don't want any bitterness or any of the phenolics out of the skin.
Right.
And then it goes to stainless steel. We settle it overnight, and then we put it in stainless steel barrels, and it barrel ferments, just like a barrel fermented Chardonnay, but in stainless steel barrels, not oak barrels. Same size as the barrel. So then we can age it sur lees, and the lees are what give you that saltiness and that texture that replaces the weight of alcohol. So it's and that saltiness is what really brings the food that your mouth watering with the food.
Right.
So the varieties are Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Counoise.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, is the varietal in the rosé? Is the varietals mixture changed just a little bit, vintage to vintage, or is it pretty
sometimes
steady?
Sometimes like a few years back we dropped a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc in it because I thought it needed a little pop. And then the proportions change a little bit based on really just on not on blending per se, but sometimes you get a bit more Grenache and a little bit less Syrah, and that's kind of is what it is because we can't totally this is farming and you can't totally control how things are going to grow.
Got it. Awesome. Cool. All right. So the next white wine I'm really excited to hear about. I'm actually really happy that we have some of this in the Chattanooga and Knoxville market for us with our distributor AOC. So this is the 2017 Phoenix Vineyard Chardonnay. We have a whopping 3 cases, and I do believe that will be all we will ever have.
Well, it will be. And I had to get a prop bottle because we're sold out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we don't have any more of it. So you have it, not us.
Yeah, well, I'm excited, and I know that this wine will be open this weekend at our house. But so this one I'm excited to hear about. Just kind of tell us a little bit about it, the vineyard, etc.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the vineyard, we purchased this vineyard. We needed a winery. Okay, so we've been bootstrapping our business. We started 25 years ago in the industry and we didn't have. There's no like big pot of gold behind us pushing us forward. So it's been a complete bootstrapping process over the last 25 years. So 3 years ago, we finally had an opportunity to buy a winery. We got a great opportunity because the family were older and they were kind of in that land rich, cash poor situation. They were just basically out of money, and they're a wonderful old couple that were farming themselves. It's not what you think of with like the big estates here. They're down home people, and he basically said he needed some help because he couldn't even pick his grapes. He was we picked the grapes for him so that because he was just plumb out of money. So he was really, they're upset they were going to have to sell the property and move to town. They had always thought they were going to retire there. So we said, well, look, we can't afford your place. I can tell you that right now, but maybe we can meet in the middle, and then you can live there for the rest of your life. And so that's what we settled on. So they're still there living in that property. And we now so they have the house, we have the winery, and it came with a little vineyard up on the hillside. So the winery is called Phoenix Winery, and so he had a little Chardonnay because he wanted to have some white wine with his red wines. That he planted it in 1982, and he'd gotten the cuttings from a vineyard up on Mount Veeder, old vine, like I have no idea what the selection was, but a really old historical selection, low yielding little clusters. And this hillside up there is shale soil, so almost all of Napa is volcanic. That's
Right.
just the volcanic. That's what built the Napa Valley, is this long volcanic crack, basically. But as part of all that, a little bit of the bottom of the ocean got scraped up and got onto Mount Veeder, and that's why Mount Veeder wines have more acid, red fruit, a lot of the greener characters than the other mountain vineyards, because that's more marine soil as opposed to the volcanic soil.
Right.
So where this is on the base side of Mount Veeder, so the marine soils has sloughed down and created arsite, and so the soil is shale. If you go down there, it's shale rock instead of volcanic rock. Like I assume that back in Tennessee, shale might be more common. There's probably patches of old shale, I would imagine, throughout the east. Here, shale is really rare because our ocean drops off, and so we don't have we don't have a lot of limestone. We don't have a lot of shale. We have most of our soils are either volcanic rocks or they're from rocks that were formed very deep in the ocean. So this is pretty rare soil, and that gives you but since it's well drained, you get the structure. And so I have never made Chardonnay from soil like this, and especially old dry farmed vines of an old funky heritage selection on shale. So I was not prepared for the power that this wine would have, and I misread it when it was young and thought that it wasn't good, basically, because it was very awkward and it was a lot of flavor that hadn't come together in any way, and it was just outside my experience base to project that was going to come together. So I thought, I'm just going to pull these vines out and plant more Cabernet to complete the vineyard. And then fast forward 9 more months in the barrel, and we're tasting the wine going, oh, this wine's absolutely amazing. It has so much texture. What the hell were we thinking? But,
Whoops.
Well. Whoops. Yeah, exactly. So not to be repeated.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, it's not a wine I've ever tasted before of yours, and yeah, I'm really excited to pop this one open. And yeah, for all you folks watching, if you're interested, I think we got 3 cases, and retailers and customers in Chattanooga and Knoxville, you can have this one.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah. If you're familiar with the Consgard Chardonnays, John Consgard's a friend, and I've learned a lot about winemaking from him. And he has a style for Chardonnay he calls Death and Resurrection, because he's dealing with like really rocky hilltop Chardonnay also. And he lets it go completely break down with oxygen in the barrel, no sulfites, and then waits for it a year and a half later to come back around. And it takes, you need to just ride it out, basically, and have faith, basically. That's the death and resurrection. And that's what we did here. So I was like, I don't know what to do here, so I'm just going to ride this puppy out. And so it didn't see any sulfur for a year and a half in the barrel. And we just let it completely fall apart and let it completely, and then it just kind of just came back together again on its own. And it's a special wine that'll come back together. Normally that's it, but that's where the faith comes in.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm excited to try that one for sure. All right, let's move on to some reds. I just finished up my Ribolla Gialla, and so I pulled the cork on Cab Franc, 2017. So I'm going to pour myself some of that.
Oops.
So we're going to taste this Cab Franc, and then we got and talk about it, and then we have 2 more red wines to talk about. So yeah. Yep, so 2017 Cab Franc.
All right, Cab Franc, 2017. So this one here is, we think of this kind of as our Pinot Noir. So this is, we're really going for the delicacy on this. We're, Cabernet Franc is a variety that has a capacity to be very delicate, very nuanced, very aromatically layered, and if it's with restraint in the winemaking practice, so that you can see into it, you can kind of get like a loose weave is what some people talk about. So you can see in there, and then you get that nuance. If we really push this thing on the ripeness, we're going to lose the ability to pick up all of the delicate finesse that Cab Franc can offer. So that's the goal with this wine. I showed you those are the vines right behind us. Our soil here is loamy. We don't have a lot of rock in the soil, so without the rock is what gives you that more depth to the texture. But the nice thing about loam is it gives you depth to the aromatics. So it's and so we just basically embrace that aspect of this site and say, well, we're not going to make a big structured Cabernet Franc. We're going to make
Right.
a very aromatic, nuanced Cabernet Franc and go that way. So it's earlier picking, it's cooler fermentation. We protect the fruit from the sun very, very carefully so that we don't lose our aromatics. Then we do about 50% whole cluster with it because the Stenny characters bring a beautiful green character that I think accents because here in our climate, we tend to get red chili peppers more so than like green chili. And so
Right.
I think the stems give you a greenness that like really lifts that Cab Franc aromatics. And then,
Yeah,
this goes
super
in
aromatic wine.
Yeah, that's the idea. And it goes
Yeah.
in Burgundy barrels, neutral Burgundy barrels, and we bottle it pretty early and let it finish developing bouquet in the bottle. You don't want to lose all our aromatics with longer time in barrel.
Right.
That's something I really learned from Steve Edmonds. It was a big aha. Don't change your release date, but bottle earlier and finish it in the bottle as opposed to longer barrel time because we don't have a lot of tannin that we need to allow to soften. We're trying to preserve freshness with this wine.
Yeah. So both these wines you and I are tasting together, both are right in your backyard.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
That's great. So I might have missed it, but did you say on this wine any stem inclusion? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 50% stems.
50. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I started doing that in 2015. It was such a warm year. I was afraid when I was tasting the fruit, I couldn't get that herbal character that I was striving for because I felt like it maybe moved into the fruitiness too fast because of the warm year. So we did whole cluster and loved it. And so now it's just part of how we do it.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
So Richard says use larger barrels. So we actually that's great that he's putting that out. We now do this in punch and we don't do it in Burgundy barrels anymore. But we still bottle it early.
That's awesome.
I need to read these comments and get some good tips.
Well, yeah, we'll towards the end we'll ask some folks for some questions for sure. It's hard for me to look at you and talk, and I can't read at the same time.
Oh, I know. It's like too many multitasking.
That's way too much. So, all right, I'm gonna pour myself a little bit more.
I got ADD. Franc. It's hard for me to focus on one thing.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. Here's another one I'm really excited about that I've never had before, and I may or may not butcher the pronunciation, but the Schioppettino. Is that right?
I don't know how to. I'm going to say that sounds fine to me. We say Schioppettino, but I have no clue if that's right.
It sounded fine to me too. So let's just whatever. Yeah. What you said and what I said, same thing. So
so this one of the Schioppettino or Schioppettino is one of the funnest wines for us to make, partly because we don't even know how to pronounce it. So like hardly anybody knows what it tastes like, and so that really takes the pressure off. So because now we just have to hope that it tastes good, but it doesn't have to taste a certain way. Like you're not like there's a lot of pressure when you're making Cabernet Sauvignon. Everyone knows what Cab tastes like. When you enter the room with Cabernet Sauvignon, you have a point of view, and you better be ready to back it up, right? Schioppettino, no one knows what that tastes like. So this is, as far as we're concerned, this is the correct Schioppettino, and that's
but
that.
Now if somebody says this doesn't taste like Schioppettino, you can say it's not because it's Schioppettino, or vice versa.
Exactly, it's a different, totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did read up on this grape a little bit, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's native to northern Italy. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's up there in Friuli also.
Friuli, okay. It's another Friulian type varietal. Okay, cool. So, yeah. So tell us a little bit about this one. Like, I know you don't make a lot of it. Kind of where's the vineyard, etc.
Okay, so this one, this is actually in our backyard too, right in that same little view that I showed you with the iPad. But this one, the reason we planted it was because the synonym for it is Ribolla Nero, and so we had never had the wine, and we'd never seen a grapevine of it before. and Jancis Robinson's book wasn't out yet. So we just figured, well, it's called Ribolla Nero. Ribolla Gialla does really well here. So let's plant the red colored clone of it. Just like Pinot Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Pinot Noir are all the same variety. They're just different colors. So that's what we thought we were doing when we got the vines and planted them. And then when we saw them grow, we said, well, that doesn't look anything like Ribolla Gialla. And then we saw the clusters, same thing. And then we did a little bit more deeper research that we might have done before we planted it and realized it's totally different than Ribolla Gialla. But we had it at that point, and then we made the wine from it, and we absolutely love it. I mean, it's so peppery. It's so unbelievably flavorful, but yet crazy light. I mean, it just vibrates off the table, levitates. It's so light with so much flavor. It's such a cool variety. If you like really peppery Northern Rhone Syrah, you're gonna like Schioppettino,
which I love. Yeah,
it has like all that pepper just turned up to 11 Spinal Tap style. I mean, it's just so peppery, and so that's but unfortunately, it is a terrible producer. It's such a bad producer. The Italian government, after World War II, outlawed it because they wanted people growing profitable grapes because they needed to lift the economy. And so this one producer, if you ever run across Ronco Gialla, they're an Italian producer from Friuli. They brought it back from basically the brink, and they make wonderful Schioppettino. All their wines are really good, Ronco Gialla, but so they can really take a lot of credit for bringing this thing back. And now I would I think there's like maybe 20 odd producers in Italy making it now. And so here in California, there's two of us, Holdridge and us, that I'm aware of. But it's a terrible producer. And so I wanted to plant more of it in a new vineyard that we were planting. And my wife, Jill, said, oh, where are we going to plant in the new vineyard? And I was like, well, Schioppettino is such a poor producer. We need to plant more of that. And she was like, time out.
Stop.
Why are we planting it if it's such a poor producer? So so I got cut off on that one. Thank God, because if it weren't for her, we wouldn't be in business right now. So for a lot of reasons. So, but anyway, so we only have 2 rows of it. So it's a pretty, you don't make very much of it.
Okay, gotcha. And what do you, is it all like neutral barrel or a little bit of stainless steel?
Neutral.
Or what?
Oh yeah, neutral. Yeah, the last thing you would want is oak with Schio because it's so light and it's all about the aromatics. So we're looking for absolute purity on that one. So similar, it gets some of our oldest barrels, but thicker. It's another one that as soon as if we can get enough of it, we'll move to puncheons, but we don't have enough of it just yet.
Awesome. Well, that's another one that I look forward to drinking, and I think we probably have about 8 bottles in our distributor's warehouse right now, so there's not a whole lot of that to go around either.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be another fun one. All right. Last but not least on the wine is the Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre blend, the GSM.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So that's Rutherford. I mean, I don't know if there's any GSM up in Rutherford. But our thought on that, there's some really nice people up there that hired me to plant a small vineyard for them, and then it kind of moved into, well, would you make the wine for us? And they wanted this like retired couple, and they wanted their favorite wines that they could grow, and they loved Rhone wines, and so they said, would you plant some Rhone varietals? Sure. And would you plant some Bordeaux varietals? Sure. How about some whites? So we planted a Greco de Tufo because they wanted a nice crisp white. But then when they figured out how much wine they were going to have every year, because they wanted it for their own drinking, they said, how about you, if you keep farming it, can you take the fruit and just give us a portion of the wine back? So that's kind of our deal. And so that's how we ended up with this like GSM in Rutherford, which is not the first thing you would go to, but I was thinking, why not? Because Rutherford's great for red wine. I mean,
right.
If obviously Cab does great in Rutherford, why wouldn't GSM do great? It's very similar heat requirements for Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Cabernet Sauvignon. If anything, they like heat more. Maybe not Syrah, more similar to Cab probably, but Grenache and Mourvèdre can, they can handle a little bit more heat. So it does great up there, and we pick it all on the same day and co-ferment it, 100% whole cluster, We have a submerged cap device that we borrowed from Arnott Roberts on kind of a long-term borrow, because I basically have, every year I just kind of accidentally on purpose forget to give it back to them basically. So we're using this goes under the submerged cap device, and so we do it submerged cap whole cluster, and then no SO2 on this one either, and because I love like kind of funky, kind of little dirty, old school Chateau Neuf de Pop. If this one gets a little bread, I'm okay. It's the only wine I'm okay with a little bread in. Like Mourvèdre, and really just kind of works really well with a little bit of Brett. And so
Right.
this is our homage to this sort of old school Chateau Neuf de Pop, translated through Rutherford.
Yeah, and so this is Helen's Gate Vineyard.
Yeah, so it's Art and Marion that own the vineyard, but we farm it.
Okay. Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely some neat wines to try, and for people to pick up and enjoy for sure.
Absolutely. I'm so bummed I couldn't come out to Tennessee. The timing of it,
I know.
1 week earlier we would have been there.
Yep. Yeah, that was kind of the week for sure. That was everything was a little touch and go for sure. So are you still riding bikes, or I know you were cycling before the Blackberry event. Did you just say screw it, or are you still riding?
I'm still, but not as much right now, because I had that big deadline of that cycling event that I had to get ready for, and now that we're quarantined, it's hard not to just eat and drink like a pig basically.
Yeah, no, trust me, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's just a nice cycle. I am exercising, but it's exercise, work, drink, and like Netflix and shit.
There you go. In that order, I hope. Yeah.
Yeah. So the exercise is first for sure. So yeah. So when you're not farming or making wine or spending time with your family or in the garden, what else does Steve Matthiasson like to do?
I mean, I like to ride my bike. I like to see live music, and luckily we're near the Bay Area. I like to, up until about a year or two ago, I'm 51, believe it or not, and so I just stopped skateboarding about 2 years ago. Last time I went skating was with Matthew Rorick with Forlorn Hope, and we both hurt ourselves, and we said, we might be ready to retire. That's when we were 49. So I'll still watch the videos, but it's not a very long list, because the winemaking, farming, cooking, and family part of it is a pretty big part of it, so.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of fun stuff. Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of fun stuff to do.
Everyone's like, when are you ever going to retire? You work a lot, and it's like, retire so I can grow grapes and make wine when I'm retired. I'm already doing that, so.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to take just a couple questions. I actually start to lose the light out here I probably got another 10 minutes maybe, but
okay.
If anybody has any questions, I know this thing's on about a 10-second delay or so, but I'm going to look down here. We can both watch Steve for anything.
Someone down here says, if you ride, ask the city to work on roads at Dry Creek and Orchard Avenue. That's right where I live. And so, and I know that very well, because I hit a freaking pothole on that road 2 years ago and broke my collarbone. So I would agree with that comment. We need to get them to work on that road.
Yeah.
Okay, is it difficult to make lower alcohol wines?
Yeah, there you go.
In a warm region? Surprisingly, no, because we get the phenolic ripeness from like viticultural practices, organic farming. We're really careful about light exposure and our canopy uniformity, and then we hey, Nate Rose, awesome, hi. And so we harvest our typical vineyard multiple times. We'll go through, because we have our own in-house crew that know the vineyard, so we don't pick down the whole row. We pick a vine, miss a vine, pick a vine, miss a vine. So we have a lot of practices that we can do to get phenolic ripeness at lower alcohol levels, even in our warm climate. And the nice thing about the warm climate is the acids come into balance, and so that's another thing that allows us to pick on the earlier side. So ironically, even though it's getting warmer, the climate, our alcohols are going down, not up, because we're learning our viticulture faster than the climate's getting warm. Let's put it that way. So then maybe, I don't know if we're going to get to some point where where the climate and just rolls over us, but right now we're learning a little bit faster than it's changing. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah. So I saw a couple questions roll by there. One was,
Yeah.
when you're not, not drinking Matthiasson wines, what's another producer or wines that you're kind of excited about right now?
Oh man, you kidding me? We drink a different wine every single night. I
Do
did a
what?
thing this earlier. We did drink a different wine every night, by for sure. We don't never drink our own wines because you got
Yeah.
to learn. And so there's so many. I mean, this morning I did a webinar with the Wine Institute for export, and the two other wines I poured were Keep and Benevolent Neglect, because they're in our family. Because Benevolent Neglect is our cellar master Matt, and Keep is our, just until recently, was our assistant winemaker Jack. And then Benevolent Neglect, or sorry, and Newfound is our hospitality. So that's our little wine family. So I'll shout those out.
Awesome. Yeah. I
And then
know
Helen's
those.
Gate. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Are you
Go.
seeing the
Yeah.
same questions on Helen's Gate?
Yes.
Yes, so that's co-fermented. We pick everything on the same day and co-ferment it.
Perfect. I saw another
You
one that
know?
went by that would have been pretty interesting. Is what's one of your favorite vineyards if you had to pick one of yours that you
Oh
like to
yeah.
work in?
Well, I love our home vineyard because I look at it every single day, and our home vineyard is in many ways is our lowest horsepower vineyard. If it's loamy soil, it's in the middle of the valley, but I love this is like our dream buying this property, and we've done so much to put wildlife habitat and fruit trees, and I mean there's berry plants tucked away in, mint, herbs, you name it, and I just love the magical places that this property has become.
That's
And
awesome.
so I'm not worried about the fact that it's not DRC. It's our home.
Yep, absolutely. Well, man, I think that's an awesome spot to stop, as I'm starting to lose the light. But I appreciate it very much, man. It's great to work with your wines, and we're so excited to have them in Tennessee, and we enjoy them. We enjoy drinking them and selling them.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for representing us, everything about it, and us in Tennessee. And it actually is touching for me that to like all the way over. I'm looking at you and the lights. You're 2 hours ahead and looking at it's so far away, but yet
Yeah.
we're so close. And through the magic of wine, right? Because wine creates a wormhole to connect people, and it's really cool that you're out there.
Yeah, I agree. And when you and I talked the other day, I said, that was kind of, at one point I was like, oh, I'm going to film some videos. And I was like, it'd be way better if I was drinking the wine with the winemaker, which has always been one of our favorite things that, as long as we've been into wine, is sharing a bottle with the winemaker. And at this point, all the folks we work with are in California. We're in Tennessee. What better than to share a bottle with somebody, pretty much opposite coast apart? It's kind of fun in these times
Exactly.
for sure. And have people learn about the wines, which is great.
Yep. Well, if the crazy thing is, I'm doing weekly Zoom meetings with my old college friends that normally we only see each other once a year. We're going, why do we have to wait for a pandemic to start coming back together again? So that's what's gonna come out of this, is we're gonna have our priorities straight.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure. A lot more people are spending time with their friends and their family and drinking good wine, and whether that's over a Zoom meeting or an Instagram live or whatever. So anyway,
Yep.
so
Cool.
All right, man. Thank you
Cheers.
so much. Yep. Cheers to you. Cheers to all the folks out there.
Thanks for tuning in and the questions and supporting the wines. And
Yep,
come visit
absolutely.
us in Napa. As soon as we open back up, come on, visit us.
Yeah, I know we can't wait to get back out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
yep. So for all you folks watching, I'm kind of, with all the winemakers we work with, I'm kind of starting this on a 1 or 2 times a week thing, and I already got a few other folks lined up for next week. So pay attention to the Instagram, and I think it's fun. I think we'll have Ryan Sturm on Tuesday pouring some of his cool wines.
Perfect.
So
He's
he's a
awesome, dude.
great dude. Really excited about his wines.
Great wines.
And yeah, so we've been in touch with most of our other winemakers, and I think most folks will hopefully be willing to do it. So I think it's fun. This is great.
All right.
All right,
Cheers.
Steve, cheers to you. Cheers to all you guys out there. Thank you so much, and have a good evening. See you, buddy.
You too.